Cachamaniacs.
GeoGearHeads.
Welcome back to GeoGearHeads episode 207, and we're going to be talking about cold weather caching. I'm Daryl W4 with my regular co-host, the Bad Cop, and our special guest, Dano of Team Pugach. So before we get any further, I know a lot of people want to know what the answer to last week's question was and who's the winner. But first, Chris, what was that question?
Well, it was a rather easy question, yet somewhat complicated if you didn't know how to look. The question was, what is the area code for the state of Maine, the entire state of Maine? And Dano, you have that for us, don't you?
That's right. So the area code for the entire state of Maine is 207, the same as this show's episode number. Coincidence? I think not.
Wow. Well, it must be right next to Seattle, which is 206.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's why we're getting lunch tomorrow, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. But actually, as my wife pointed out, my area code is not 207. I actually moved to Maine 2 years ago, so I have 508 from Massachusetts. But anyway, the winner of the Coins and Pin prize is Stephen W54. Congratulations.
Yes, congratulations on winning that prize from coinsandpins.com. But Dano, I understand that you have a prize for one of our lucky live listeners.
Yeah, that's right. You know, I love giving away stuff when I come on different shows, so I have a pretty awesome prize for you guys today. I searched far and wide for what is a prize I could give away related to the cold, and I found this Geo coin that's also a beer bottle opener. It is called the Hopgarden Sherpa Geo coin. And it even comes with its own path tag, which on the back it holds together by a magnet or any other path tag you want. So obviously you want to win this. So how do you win this? Simply email geogearheads@cachamaniacs.com with the subject "I am cold." In the body include your name, your geocaching name, and the answer to the following question. What is the name of the mountaineering people in the Himalayas famous for being a guide? The answer is Sherpa.
You're not supposed to give the answer away.
Oh, I forgot.
For everyone.
Can we have a redo?
Yeah, because redos always work well in live.
Oh, they do. Well, you know, the last two times I was on your show, you actually put the answer up on the screen, so I thought I was supposed to give it away again.
Yeah, well, we actually do that with the live ones so that people don't have to, wander off and miss the show and all the lovely content that we're going to have. But you have to answer that by about 9:45 p.m. Eastern. That's 6:45 p.m. Pacific on December 17th. So it's only good for those of you watching live. You got only about, half an hour or so to get that in. And at the end of the show, we'll announce the winner of that very cool coin. But, Dano, a couple of our very alert GeoGearHeads listeners did mention that there are some portions of Maine that do not share area code 207. Instead, they share an area code with Canada.
That's right. Maine is a pretty big state. Sometimes it feels like Canada is just down the street. I was 2.5 hours north of here, and it was snowing. I was like, oh, it must be near Canada. But I was told there's still hours to go. But yes, way, way up north, Presque Isle and another place, very remote areas, they have a different phone exchange code. But generally, because the whole state's 207, if you ask someone their phone number, they don't even tell you their area code around here.
Wow. Interesting.
Nice.
Well,
yeah. It's one of those weird things around here, though, because it's literally just a couple of miles south to get to Canada, and it's actually usually a little warmer over there than here because it's south of us.
Yeah, no, I actually thought I was up your way. When I was on a road trip Tuesday night, I was interviewing some breweries. I'm driving down the highway and I see a sign that says Detroit. I was like, did I get lost? Detroit.
We should have stopped by.
How far could it be?
Yeah, and I've got right over here that Griffin's Claw Brewery.
Hmm.
We could have gone and hung out there, and tried some of the beers. Yeah, and we just talked about that quite a bit, Chris, on Cash and Release. Not that we did that show together, but
Yeah,
we were both on the show.
exactly. There's some cash and release memes going about that, the first hour and second hour, much like the Republican debates.
That was a great show. I watched both hours, and I'm excited that I'm going to be on that show next month. Quick plug, Sunday, January 10th, not only will I be on the show, but my 5-year-old Johnny will be on the show. We're going to talk about hiding caches specifically for kids. And I told him, well, if you want to ask me about hiding caches for kids, why don't you just get my kid on the show and he can tell you what he likes. So they're all about that. So looking forward to January 10th.
Awesome.
Nice.
Well, before we move on, Limax in the live Q&A mentioned that he changed area codes twice without moving. And, Limax, I did exactly the same thing here. We went from 313 to 810 to 248. And all in the same, house, same line, same everything.
I've only changed area codes one time. Went from 206 to 253. So
it's such
sorry,
a pain
guys.
for the businesses because you got to redo everything.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to be talking about cold weather caching today, and I know that not everyone is dealing with this cold weather stuff, but maybe, perhaps, it will actually pan out for you guys that you could go somewhere that does have some cold weather caching, like maybe Alaska. Do one of those cool cruises that they were just talking about on caching in the Northwest.
That's right. One of those land sharks cruises going up to Alaska.
Yeah, no, that'd be a lot of fun. Or one of those Canada train rides. I told Daryl by email I've wanted to do one of those for about almost 20 years now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I hear that they're dropping the frequency of those train trips, so I'm not sure what that's going to be like in the future.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely something I'd love to do is the Transcontinental with the beautiful scenery.
Yeah. But, tonight with the show, I wanted to talk about was mostly clothing and some gear for the cold weather. A lot of it I learned in my bicycle messenger days in Boston of what worked, what didn't work. I don't always take my own advice. Today it was in the 30s, freezing rain. I didn't have gloves on. I just had a flannel and a puffy vest. But I went out there, found 7 caches. My fingers were a little cramped and frigid by the end. So hopefully after the show tonight, I'll dress better tomorrow when I go out again.
Were your fingers too cold to get the logs out of the nanos?
They were, well, so luckily they weren't too small. The smallest cache I found was one of those soda bottle preforms, about the size of a hot dog. But it was more of the typing on my smartphone what I wanted my log to be, because Siri is not the best for leaving I found it logs.
Very true, but it does. And, I've found, totally changing subjects, but I've found that, what's the voice dictation on Android? I can't recall. Does work a little bit better than Siri on the iPhone, but ironically, the Apple Watch, works better than the iPhone as well.
Wow.
And it does seem to work a little bit better than Android did, but I'm not sure whether that's simply the position of the mic and the way that I hold the watch versus the phone that it works better than Android.
Mm-hmm.
In any case,
Yes.
let's get back to our clothing.
Oh, definitely. So the biggest, most important thing is, what is your clothing made out of? Cotton, yeah, it's light and it kind of breathes well, but once it gets wet, it's useless. I'm a huge fan of wool. I wear wool year-round. Wool socks, wool base layers, which are basically like your long underwear made out of merino wool. Big name brands you can find would be Smart Wool or Ibex. Any place you go to, like REI, Eastern Mountain Sports, they're going to have their own house brand as well. But those are going to save you so much, because when they get wet, they're still going to keep you warm, and that's the key thing right there. I don't know what Dickies pants are made out of, some kind of rayon polyester, but I find that Dickies brand work pants, like the UPS driver will wear, perfect for geocaching. I was out in the rain today. They didn't get wet. I was almost knee-deep in swamp water last weekend. They dried off before I got back to my car.
Wow.
Wow. Impressive.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
have to
so
second the comments on the wool socks. I actually wear those most of the time now because not only do they keep you warm in the winter, but they tend to keep you a little cooler in the summer.
yeah, and if you need, if you need something thin, like today I wore really baggy wool socks. It kind of looked like they were knitted, like a homemade hat or sweater. But cycling socks, there's tons of wool socks out there, and they look like dress socks. They're fun looking, so even if you got to wear them in the office, you don't have to be feeling like you're wearing something that's super thick and heavy.
Yeah. Well, and especially for that kind of stuff, there's a lot of bicycle commuter kind of clothing lines now. So you're finding a lot of the stuff that is a little bit more professional, but still better for active wear.
Exactly. I did see that there's a note here that our good friend DeBear on Google Plus said, advice for cold weather as sung by astronaut extraordinaire Chris Hadfield in his song called In Canada. We got great big cities, but a lot of trees and rocks. And yes, the winter's cold here. Wear 2 pairs of socks. So he's saying that we got to double up. Socks are your friend. It's what the best spacemen do. And I've been known to wear double socks. I don't know if I haven't seen them in a long time, but I remember in the 90s, they were always like you wore the polypropylene liners inside your socks. They used to sell like 2 pairs that were designed to be worn together.
Yeah, I remember those as well. But I haven't done anything like that. I now just get the thermal wool socks, but I'm not doing that much cold weather stuff, and I really don't do so well anymore in the cold.
Yeah. But so we talked about base layers, what's closest to your skin, and we talked about socks. Big thing is boots. You need to have dry feet. I often go caching in sneakers, but days like today I wear hiking boots. And for me, cold weather caching, the ground is generally dry. Maybe it's muddy. I've tried caching in snow, and when the snow is between your ankle and your knee, sometimes it's just too much of a pain of like walking through the snow. That's just not worth it to get to your destination. So I'm not really looking for waterproof, like knee-high boots for wading in water. I'm just looking for mud-proof, slush-proof, rain-proof boots. And I'm a big fan of gaiters. They're basically like raincoat material, this big rectangle that wraps around your leg. They're designed for snowshoeing, draw a string on the top, so that basically any water that gets on you from knee down just disperses. It's got a strap under your boot to stay in place, little hooks for your shoelaces. When I was a bicycle commuter, I always wore those in the rain.
Yeah, and one of the big things for me is I don't like the nice tall boots, so those gaiters are kind of nice. But it really depends more on how high that snow is, whether I'm going to worry about the height of the shoe, or even anything that's like more waterproof than just a hiking boot is.
Exactly, yeah. Like, if I'm going to go in taller snow, I've got winter boots. I live in Maine. They're bean boots. They're an iconic image of this area. But I'll wear those with a Gore-Tex lining. But then when the snow's that tall, I've probably hiked 0.2 miles, and I feel like I just ran a marathon, and I have no energy, and I kind of lay in the snow like I'm doing a snow angel for a while until I go back to the car. So I've learned, until Santa buys me snowshoes, snow on the ground, don't go caching.
I tend to just
And those gaiters keep the snow out of your boots.
right.
If you have tall boots, you step down into deep snow, and snow will start getting in the top and melt its way down, and it's no fun.
Oh yeah, like last winter, which was the worst winter I've seen of my life, it compared to the blizzard of '78 a few years before I came around. So
I
we
remember
got
the blizzard of '78.
yeah, that was that. I've seen pictures. My dad went out the second floor windows with cross country skis to go grocery shopping. But yeah, so last winter was pretty bad. 3 feet of snow every week getting dumped on us. and I would just shovel in jeans and gaiters, and I never got wet.
There you go. Yeah, during the blizzard of '78, I was young. I remember my brother digging his way out of the second-story window in order to go down and start digging us out. The front side of the house was completely drifted over, and the back side of the house, it opened the window and he punched his way through. So
Fun.
Yeah. But so, we're talking about, we got our feet covered with socks, boots, and gaiters, jackets. So I'm all about layering. You don't want to overheat. So, yes, I made that silly video on Periscope last week for tonight's show where I'm in my parka with a fur hood up and I'm at the beach and it's cold out, but I'm not going to go geocaching in a down jacket. Pretty much over base layer, I wear a wool sweater. Again, no surprise, I'm a big fan of wool. It's most of my wardrobe. And then over that wool sweater, I'm just wearing like your basic windbreaker. I need something that's breathable. I don't want to sweat. If I start sweating, I'm not going to have a fun day out there. Today I wore the puffy vest over the flannel because I didn't want to be too hot, even though it was still in the 30s. But it's just all about having those layers. If you have any other things kicking around, you can go for it. Any good sweater will work. I just prefer wool for that breathability, keeping me warm and wet. Doesn't get smelly like some of the other materials out there. I know like Daryl's a cyclist. Most of my wool sweaters are actually cycling jerseys, so then I got extra pockets to put stuff.
Yeah, that's always handy. And one of the big worries, too, is if you do get hot and sweaty, then you also tend to run a higher risk of getting sick from it.
Mm-hmm.
Limex says he finds he sweats no matter what he wears in any temperature.
You and me both, Limax. I can sweat when it's single digits out there. I don't know. Maybe it's the Russian blood in me, but it gets 70 degrees out. I'm miserable. It gets below zero, and I'm still sweating and want to put the air conditioner on.
Nice. And, if you're packing layers, you can always add and subtract easily to adjust to either your body temperature or the temperature outside if it changes.
Well, and that's been one of the big things that we've had going on here. We're down around freezing in the mornings when I go to work, sometimes even a little below, but we'll get into like the 50-degree Fahrenheit range at lunchtime. So, I'm freezing in the morning and I'm sweating by midday because I'm planned for, 30-degree weather changes, and that's not an easy thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you do layering or, bring a whole bunch of extra jackets and such.
Totally. And, so what else do we to keep warm? I told you guys earlier I didn't wear gloves today, which was a big mistake out caching. So you want to wear gloves. And I wear different gloves for different types of the year. If it's now, I'm probably wearing full gloves, but when it gets to January, February, and it's super cold out, I'm wearing mitts because having your fingers together, they're going to keep each other warm, but when you get those separations, your hands just get cold and numb, especially if you're like me, you're going caching 1 day a week at the most. You want to be out there for 10, 12 finds. It's going to take a while. You don't want to be like, oh, I'm cold, I got to go home.
Well, and one of the concerns now is we have to use capacitive touchscreens, like the smartphones, of course, but also the new Oregon 600 is a capacitive touchscreen. So you can't use those with the gloves or the mittens unless it has that magnetic thread or a coating. And I actually have, I think it's Outdoor Research. I should have looked that up. Gloves which are leather with a coating that's metallic. So those will actually conduct, and I've heard that there are some of the other ones, including Tesla now makes some gloves apparently, that will work with that. So there are a number of those gloves that have it, and if you're looking for something in colder weather, what I found kind of interesting, I haven't had a whole lot of success with it, but North Face and a number of others have glove liners. So it's gloves intended to be inside something else, but they're still warm with the magnetic pads on them. Then you get the mittens and put them over that.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. I've seen that at I think Target, and they have what looks like your basic black cotton stretchy gloves, and you could wear those and just slip it off. Because I use a smartphone, so I take my gloves off, I do what I got to do, and then I'm cold.
Yeah, Limax says that he carries a pair of the touchscreen gloves in his car. Not that it's been cold in the last couple of years, but it's been colder this year, though. And that's not a bad idea to just keep them in the car. You know, if you need them, they're going to be available. So, you know, you can warm them up too on the dashboard. I've had to do that a few times.
Yeah, that's true. And, you know, if they're cotton gloves, you can dry them out quickly on the dashboard as well.
Yeah, definitely.
If need be.
Definitely. Obviously, where else do we lose heat? You know, I would always laugh at my mom, but be like, "Oh, you got to wear a hat. You lose heat from your head." But it's true. I find that you got to wear a good hat, but you don't want something too warm because then you just overheat. I find that, you know, this might be when I break my wool only rule, where I'll wear a cotton hat that breathes a little bit better and won't make me too hot. I just need something light. I've seen winter hats that are made out of like a spandexy material, and it's kind of super form-fitting. Almost looks like a swimmer's cap, and it's just something to keep the wind off of you.
Interesting.
Yeah, and one of the tips that I have too is, you know, if you start getting hot on the trail, pull off the hat because that's going to help cool you down. And many times I've had to do that, take off the hat for a little while and put it right back on. Doesn't work so well if it's actually snowing because then your head gets wet.
Yeah.
Yellow Jeeper Man has a little hack for us, though, regarding the gloves. He says you can actually buy a spool of the silver thread and thread it in your fingers of your favorite gloves so you can make any of your gloves compatible with capacitive touchscreens. I've actually heard about that. I've never tried it. And one of my fears of doing that is I like to have gloves that are kind of waterproof. So if you're poking those holes in there, I always worry that it's not going to be waterproof anymore. But for the liners, they're usually not waterproof, and you don't really want them to be because you want them to breathe. Mm-hmm. So that would be a great way to take like your favorite liners or your lighter weight gloves, anything like that, and then use the mittens or the like ski gloves on top of it.
You could sew it into the pinky finger because when you're grabbing things, you can not use the pinky finger, and that way it'd still be waterproof for you there, Daryl.
Yeah, well, and one of my biggest problems with any of these touchscreen gloves is my pinky finger is way too short, and a lot of the times my index finger is way too tall, so the gloves won't fit right. So you really do need to get in and try those gloves on and make sure that they are going to work, especially with the capacitive compatible ones, because when that tip starts flipping over, you get all kinds of weird reactions on those touchscreens.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was wondering if maybe that listener, the Jeep Man, knows where can I get that thread, because I could probably put it in my beard and just control my phone that way, but rubbing my face on it.
Well, the silver thread is actually available, if I recall, at a lot of your fabric stores.
Okay.
Even I think like your big box stores will have it.
It's probably like Joann's, Walmart, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Petra says that Mountain Headwear Dome Paranon Beanie is an awesome hat on the pricey side, though. Mm-hmm. Hopefully I didn't butcher that name too much, but I'm fumbling over it. Sorry.
Yeah. I'll definitely give you guys, when I bought most of my gear, I worked in the bicycle industry. I was lucky. I got it all at wholesale, where the shop I worked for was like, we don't need to make any profit off you. So I was lucky to get that stuff. And know it's a big investment, so just buy a few things every year. Like, all right, I need to upgrade my gloves this year. Next year, okay, I'm going to get new socks. Don't feel like you have to go out and spend $500 or $1,000 to get through this winter. Just do a little every year, and then you'll eventually have everything you need.
Well, and if you're getting quality stuff, it should last you at least 2 or 3 seasons. I've gotten some of the cheaper stuff with the intent to just hold me over, and it works, but generally not as well.
Yeah, no, you definitely want to spend money on the good stuff. You don't want to buy cheap socks that are going to have a hole in the heel or toe 2 months in. You don't want to get gloves that are going to, supposed to keep you dry, but they don't the first time you use them. Boots we mentioned earlier, you want to break those boots in. You don't want to be like, cool, I bought new boots because Dano told me to, and now I'm going to go do a power trail and my feet hurt.
And then we'll be cursing Dano's name the entire time.
It wouldn't be the first time.
Jumping back to the thread, Yellow Jeeper Man said that if you don't want to buy a whole spool, you can buy a few feet much more affordably from Spark Fun or Adafruit.
Oh, nice.
I will definitely be looking into that after the show. That's awesome. Thank you. So a few more items of clothing I want to go through before we jump into some gear and health concerns and whatnot. You guys may have seen balaclava before. I don't know. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
Balaclava?
I've always called it balaclava, but yeah,
You know.
I don't know that
Oh,
that's
it's not
actually
baklava?
right. No.
Baklava, yes, it's the baklava. A little honey, a little nuts, and like nice pastry.
Mhm.
But yeah, basically, the giant black mask that goes over and all you can see is your eyes. If you add ski goggles to it, you look like Cobra Commander and nobody knows who you are.
Yeah, I've got a couple of those that I got specifically for cycling, but they do wonders on the trail even.
They do, but this is where you don't want to overdo it. If you're in really cold weather for a long time, it's great. If you're in just kind of cold weather for a short time, you're going to sweat your butt off. You don't want that.
Well, and one of the best alternatives that I found for that are the scarves. They're not actually like your traditional scarf, but they're the like elastic material in just a hoop that you kind of throw over your head. The ones that I have that I like the best are from Smart Wool. But the nice thing about that is you can pull it up over your nose. If you start getting too hot, pull it back down.
Yeah, no, those are great. I've seen a few that are convertible where they'll do, just your face or just your neck or everything.
Right.
So definitely worth it. Ski goggles, sunglasses, you'd be surprised how crazy the glare is. I've noticed in the past week how much harder it is to drive to work in the morning because the sun's coming down, there's no more leaves in the trees, and then it's hitting the ice or the snow and just reflecting everywhere. So make sure to wear sunglasses just to protect your eyes while you're out there all the day.
Yeah, we have a big issue around here driving with snow blindness.
Exactly.
Fortunately, we don't have any snow right now, but last year,
Yeah.
I had to wear my glasses to and from work every day.
Oh, yeah. And it's one of those things where it's hard to see out there in that sea of white as winter progresses. So wear some high visibility clothing. You want to be seen in case something happens. We never expect there to be an emergency on the trail, but it does happen. Sometimes you do things cachers shouldn't do. Perfect example today. I was not a smart cacher. I got pretty banged up today geocaching where I was like, okay, there's a cache in a tree. I'm going to climb up and try to get it. The tree's like, I don't know, 8 to 10 feet tall, got hit by lightning, so half the tree's missing. And I climb all the way up and I look inside and I think I see a container. So I take out my iPhone and I take a picture and then I go down. Mind you, it's raining out. So then I look at my phone. Yes, I see the container. So I climb back up, and I'm reaching in, and I'm trying to get the container, and I slip and fall. Now I'm dangling from the tree because my arm's in what's essentially a log standing up. So I'm hanging by like my bicep, and then I fall on my side, and I'm all bruised up and whatnot. But we do stupid stuff. Now,
Okay.
I was wearing...
Did
yeah.
you make the find?
Oh, of course I made the found.
Oh, then it was totally worth it.
Oh, well, we'll get into that where other things you should do. So I did get the find, and this is how I got the find. I got the find by reading what other finders wrote. And one person wrote, it's easier to go through the window than the chimney. So walk around the tree, and there's a little hole I can barely get my hand in to pull out the container that's not much bigger than a tomato. But yeah, like thankfully I just have a bruise on my arm and a bruise on my shin. But if I got seriously hurt, it's dark because it's raining, even though it's 10:30 in the morning. I'm wearing green plaid with a dark brown vest. People aren't going to really see me. I'm 60 feet from the trail. It's a big trail, like a bike path that's paved that lots of joggers and cyclists will go down. So if that kind of emergency, if I'm wearing a bright orange or bright yellow high-vis jacket, people are going to see me, and that's why I make sure whenever I buy my windbreakers or my raincoats, I always get yellow.
Yeah, I always look for the brighter colors now too. But that's also a good reason to make sure that you don't go out caching alone, and you always have someone with you, because then they can take video of you being stupid like that.
I know that would be nice, but Johnny was in kindergarten and Heather runs a daycare in the house, so I was alone. And it's true. Like I always hear, "Don't go alone." I go alone a lot. I know my handle is a Team Pugach because we go as a family, but I still go alone a good 80+% of the time.
Yeah, yeah. Most of the time, I think most of the people I know aren't caching with anyone else, even if they are a family. But you do find a lot of people do that in urban areas, especially. It's that first to find thing. You have to go out and get it. Especially those first to finders are always seeming to run solo, and that's fine. Just make sure that you have some way to get in touch with someone should something happen. And that's one of the nice things about things like the Spot or the InReach, is even if you're outside of cell coverage, you can always hit that 911. But just make sure that you have a cell phone handy and available if you are caching, like in the city.
Oh yeah, and then it's one of those things where if you are in places where you have coverage, like there's great apps out there. Like you guys talked about Glimpse before, and I've used that because it's like, hey, I'm going out here, and if something happens to me, I can set a timer. Oh, I don't move for 30 minutes. Send an alert to this person by email that I didn't move, so they can call me and see what's going on.
Yeah, and I've heard about some of the apps like that for Android especially. Intended, I think, mostly for like the elderly, but you're finding more and more of that kind of stuff popping up as we get more mature with our smartphone technology. So that's something we'll probably have to look into and do on another one of our shows. Wet Coaster though says that we all suffer for the hobby.
Oh yeah, but I smartened up, thankfully, Wet Coaster. One of the caches I found 8 caches today of series named after Stephen King novels. He's a guy from Maine. You may have heard of him before. And there's one of them I didn't find because I was like, all right, it's called Misery. I'm standing 100 feet from it, and there's a tree that is fallen down, and under that tree is a river, and it goes into the swamp, and the cache is at the other end. Well, I've already fallen out of this other tree trying to find Tommyknockers. I'm not going to go cross Misery. I'm just going to go home. I learned my lesson.
Come back in the summer.
Yeah, I was thinking more like February when it's frozen and I can just walk over.
You can skate across.
I was going to say, this is probably another thing we should mention, is it's very important to match your caching to the conditions. You're not going to be doing something that isn't better to wait on. Yeah. We do have a lot of caches around here which are on islands, and people go for them in the winter because you don't need the boat to get to them.
Yeah, I'm just being a little impatient. Christmas is coming up next week, and that's my cache-iversary. I started geocaching 4 Christmases ago, and I'm so close to 600. I was 18, now I'm only 11 caches away, and I want to find number 600 on Christmas Day. So,
nice.
I work retail. I almost never get a day off. Today was actually my only day off between now and Christmas. So I was like, tomorrow I'm working 1 in the afternoon, so I'm going to go out caching all morning. And my wife's going to go caching Saturday without me when I'm at work because we want to get 600. So I'll be a little dumb for this week, and then I'll have my sense back.
See, this is when those parking grabs really are nice.
And that's what she's going to do because she's going to have 2 kids with her, so she's looking to do parking grabs in the industrial park on Saturday.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's great because you don't have the traffic in an industrial park that you would during the week.
And if you've got kids with you in the cold, it's nice that you can leave them in the car seat, maybe with some sort of electronic entertainment while you run out, sign the cache, come back.
Oh, yeah. So if it's cool, guys, I'd like to change topics from clothing, and let's skip to health, like, real quick. This is hydration. You gotta drink water, just as important in the winter as it is in the summer. If you go geocaching without water, you're an idiot.
Well, in the winter, it's deceptive. Yeah, you don't think you need it, but you do. So we've heard from so many people in the winter who have gotten dehydrated, just because they didn't realize that they needed the water.
Yeah. And just like you need water, you need food. So it's like if you're going caching, be like, oh, it's only for an hour. It's never just for an hour. You know, you go to find 2 and it turns into 15. We all get that I need one more itis. So make sure to bring food, but you want to bring food that's going to actually help you, like something that will give you energy. So don't bring a candy bar, don't bring a bag of potato chips, bring something with a little oomph to it. You know, you can go to your local ski shop or bicycle shop or REI and see what do they recommend for people that are hiking or spending hours out there, so you get the right kind of sugar and not the wrong kind of sugar.
Good one. Yeah. I like to carry Cliff Bars with me.
Yeah, Cliff Bars are a favorite, but there's so much that I just don't want to do it when I'm on the trail.
Yep.
It's great when I was doing a lot of the long distance cycling as like a lunch replacement. Not that it was long distance really, but it was like when I'm on a little bike trek and I'm not going to have a chance to stop for lunch, that's what I'd have as my lunch.
Well, a good thing that I've always done, if you're looking to do it on the cheap and you don't want to buy the expensive engineered bars that are designed to get you for certain activities, peanut butter and jelly sandwich, banana, like those two have always been a good standby.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say the Cliff Bars has like the Cliff Kids ones now, which I haven't tried, but that looks appealing because it's about half the size of a regular Cliff Bar. So have you guys had any experience with those?
No.
We'll have to check that out. We did get another tip from, let's see, I actually have the name here. Marcy Panic, I think is how that's pronounced.
Oh, that's Peter. He lives just down the street from me. He's kind of the local first to finder in Portland.
There we go. So did I actually pronounce the name correctly?
I don't know. I always say Marsipanic or something like that.
Okay. Well, my apologies if we didn't get it quite right. But he says, don't use a Camelback or any uninsulated water tube pack. It can freeze on you, which is very true. And, one of the things that I have actually done when I'm out on the trail is I'll take boiling water, and well, not boiling, but, close to boiling water, throw it in a thermos, and then I'll pour it into the little cup, and drink of that instead of just cold water. But I find that actually usually doesn't work as well.
Yeah, and I tend to bring coffee geocaching. I'm a little bit of a coffee addict. So usually you'll find me with the 20-ounce container of coffee and the 32-ounce Nalgene of water, and I'm just hand in hand just walking down the trails.
Nice. I tend to carry cold water with me, Daryl. I find that as I'm out geocaching and hiking, I'm generating heat, and the hot water just isn't satisfying. I want something cold. So.
Yeah, especially as you start to cool down, that hot water is a little bit of a shock too, and you don't end up drinking it until it cools down anyway. But at least that way you make sure it doesn't freeze.
That's true.
Yeah. Well, the hot water will come in handy because how many times have you gone to find a cache to find out that it's now under ice because snow melted and refroze? So then you got the hot water to just pour on it, and you can still make your find.
There you go. You can also pour that right on the windshield if your car freezes up there, because that's always good. Pour really hot water on the windshield.
Yeah, kind of on the same lines. I keep thinking about that windshield de-icer alcohol spray. I keep thinking I should carry some of that with me when I go caching for those ammo boxes that freeze closed.
Oh, that's ingenious. I like it.
Well, we don't have a whole lot of those ammo cans anymore, so I don't think that it's worth carrying it.
And that's a shame because ammo cans are my favorite. I used to see a ton of them when I started geocaching 4 years ago. Now I almost never see them. When I hide an ammo can, it usually gets smuggled pretty quick, and it's like all I see now is smaller and smaller. Like all the caches I found today were super tiny, the size of my fist or smaller.
That's a shame. That's a shame.
Yeah.
Bigger. I've seen some very cleverly disguised ammo cans right here in the city, and if you do it right, you can hide them in kind of plain sight. So.
Yeah. So hopefully people keep hiding them. Pretty much, we talked about sun already with wearing good eyewear. What is the biggest challenge in cold weather caching? It's not the cold and how it affects you, it's how it affects batteries. Something that always annoyed me when I was a photographer years ago is you're out there in the cold and the batteries just die really quick. So think about your batteries. Have spare batteries. Keep them close to you so they stay warm. I usually will keep them if my shirt has a front pocket like a dress shirt. Put them in that chest pocket so that way the batteries are going to stay warm with your body heat. Because the last thing you want to do is run out of batteries, take out your spare set that's in a backpack, and they don't work because they're too cold. And now you're like, great, how am I going to get my way home?
Well, and one of the tips for the batteries as well is take your spares and drop them in your inside coat pocket. Not the outside, but the inside. And you'll find that they'll tend to leave... tend to come back a little longer. Well, and even if you take, especially the rechargeables and NIMS are notable for this. When they get cold, they just stop working. So you can drop them into, when you pull them out of your camera, out of your GPS, drop them in that inside pocket. They'll warm up, and you can get another, 20-30% of the battery life out of them again, just by warming them up.
Yeah, no, so definitely.
And one of the tips that we used to have when we were doing the videography is we'd put the rain jackets on, and they'll have little pouches inside the rain jacket for the camera, and you put the hand warmers in there. And that will keep the batteries and the camera a little warmer, plus they keep your hands warm. So that's kind of nice. And that's another thing I think you were actually wanting to talk about too, is the hand warmers to help keep you from freezing your fingers off as you're trying to use your phone and GPS.
Well, I think they're good. I never go out and buy them. I don't know why. Maybe it's a pride thing or whatever, but my mom always gets me these. These go back to when I was a Boy Scout as a kid. She always would get me every year for Christmas in the stocking a bunch of those hand warmers where they're like this bag that you with some kind of weird powder chemical, and you kind of crush them up, and then they generate heat for so many hours, and you can put them in your gloves and your boots. They come in handy. Like, keep them in your bag, because there's going to be that time when you forgot your gloves or your gloves got wet, and you're going to be glad you have them. It could be the difference between frostbite or not.
Yeah, I even wear them sometimes when walking the dog, because it's early in the morning and late at night, especially when the wind is blowing. Brutally cold that you just have to have it, especially when you're needing that dexterity to pick up things like doggy droppings or open the nano caches.
Oh yeah. The wife complains that in the winter I don't like to pick up Buddy's droppings because it's so cold. So come April, she's like, all right, get on the backyard, you're going to need about 5 hefty bags, start cleaning up.
Well, hopefully we'll just wash away before that.
Yeah, that would be nice. So another thing is waterproof cases. We've talked about them before when I've been on the show. Pretty much anything works. I'm a big fan of e-cases. They're heavy-duty, basically Ziploc bags that you can use the touch screen on your phone through them. They're going to be waterproof. They were designed for boating. They're great. I used to use life-proof cases, but I had reasons I stopped. I didn't like how they sounded, or I didn't like how the phone overheated inside of it, so I stopped using the life-proof case all the time. I had that on my 4S, and then when I went to the 5S and now the 6, I use the e-case bags instead. But in a pinch, you can use a Ziploc baggie. I once went geocaching in a hurricane, put my phone in a Ziploc baggie, I was fine.
Very good point. But, we got to go back to, I think, real quick, because we talked about the batteries and the effect on the cold.
Yeah.
Cold. And that's a reason why you really need to plan on a lot more batteries than you normally would. I don't think we really mentioned that. Especially like with your phone that's going to be out and, in the cold as you're trying to find that cache. Make sure to have a couple of those external battery packs, maybe a really big battery pack, but you want to have 2 batteries so that you can swap them in and out if you're going to be out there for a long time, and put it in your jacket to get it warmed up, like we were mentioning earlier. Because I've actually had some of the battery packs where they got so cold that I had to put them in the they'd register like 10% on the dial when you hit it. Put it in the jacket, hit that button again, and it's back to 80%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's super handy. I have the Mophie. I don't remember which one it's called. I bought it a few years ago. It was like $100. It's bright orange. It's rugged. It's water resistant. It will recharge an iPhone something like 3 to 5 times before you have to recharge this brick. And it's great because when I'm doing long caching, regardless of the time of year, I'll put that battery pack in, my back pocket and just have the cable coming around my waist plugged into my phone, and I keep going.
And that's one of the advantages to the externals in the colder weather. The cables are a nuisance, but because of the cable, you can tether it and keep the battery in your jacket and warm, or at least warmer, than you would with the external. So it's a nice thing. Now, Marcy Panic also says that a backup GPSR is a good idea so that you make it back and you don't forget to mark your car.
Absolutely. I know there's always been lots of debate on the internet between all my podcast friends and the geocachers I know in person, like Peter, who just said that. I switched to smartphone only. Part of the problem was I had a really entry-level GPS, and I just struggled with it, with compatibility with my computer. It seemed to only like Windows computers, and I didn't like having to drive 40 miles to my in-laws' house every time I want to put more caches on it because I didn't like Apple computers. But I enjoy a smartphone, but if anyone wants to buy me an eTrex 30, send it my way. Non-touch screen because, it gets cold here and I need to wear my gloves. But yeah, you're right, like having something as a backup. That's actually even why my wife and I have different cell phone providers, because we get different degrees of signal depending on where we go, and there are times where I can't get a cache page to load, and she's like, I already got the next cache loaded up. Let's go.
Nice. That's a good idea to have different cell phone providers in a couple there.
Yeah, it costs you maybe an extra $10 a month because you're not doing the family plan thing, but for geocaching it works out.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, we've given our listeners a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
But I think we should probably actually wrap this one up. And there's certainly a lot more that we could be talking about with this cold weather caching. But before we go, we have a couple more things. And the big one I know everyone's waiting for is the winner of your live contest.
Yeah, so the winner of the live contest, and this is not like a rigging, we don't need a recount or anything. I have no say because you emailed Daryl, you didn't email me. But it's my friend Peter, Marsipanic. He won the bottle opener coin and path tag right here. So pretty much I got his phone number, he's got mine. He comes and visits me at work a lot, so I'll get that to him. Thank you. I don't have to pay to mail it somewhere.
I was just going to ask if you can save on the shipping for that. I thought that was ironic because we were just talking about him so much. And thank you for joining us in the live Q&A. Everyone who was in there, we had a great live Q&A going with some amazing information this week.
Totally. And I'm actually glad it's live because I'm gonna be on caching in the Northwest after this. And with my luck, a Canadian's gonna win what I give away, and that's gonna cost me a ton in shipping.
Yeah, it's more than double to ship to Canada.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
All right, but we also got a comment from Team Mavaju. Did you want to read that one back
Sure.
up?
As a person living in Australia, my cold weather geocaching experience is mostly a do I wear a jumper or a light jacket question before I go out and do a who was I kidding feeling putting that jacket or jumper in my backpack again after 5 minutes of walking. On the other hand, I look forward to the Dangerous Animals show.
So I think that's one that we're going to have to do. We'll get him on, and maybe we'll find someone else. Maybe we can get Kitty Catch on to talk about the dangerous animals down in Australia.
Ooh.
So, if any of you Aussies are up for a show, let us know because we would love to do it. Because Chris, were you down there once or not?
No, I've always wanted to go, but I never have gone to Australia.
I couldn't remember if you had actually done. I know that Xpunk X had done it, so he kept talking about that one. loved being down there, and I'd love to hit Australia at some point. And I got to hit New Zealand if I go down there and visit the land of the hobbits.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Yeah, if you're down there, you may as well jump over to New Zealand. I mean,
yeah.
It's just a hop, skip, and a jump from there.
Well, and it's such a beautiful territory.
Yeah, yeah.
We do want to mention one more comment from the live Q&A, which comes from Wet Coaster. He says he found that his GPS lasted longer in the cold than anybody's phone, and that's one of the reasons apparently he uses the GPS as his primary caching tool. And that's something else that we should note is when you're using the alkalines or the lithium batteries in those GPSRs, they will do much better than if you're using like the rechargeables. So that's a good reason to not use the rechargeables.
That's right. The rechargeables are very nice, but they don't last as long in the cold or the heat.
They do not.
So they like the
what you're saying is that they're great for your TV remote.
Oh, they're great for the TV remote, and they do actually work better in the heat sometimes, depending on the battery chemistry and stuff. They do work better in the summer, so keep those for your summer batteries. And I keep saying I always like to keep a pair of the lithium batteries in the pack, because if nothing else works, those always will, because they have a shelf life of about 10 years. So you can keep them in your pack, not use them for 5 years, and they'll still work. And you can't say that about NIMS for sure, and even the alkaline batteries won't last that long in storage.
Not that long. Mm-mm. But, worst case scenario is you stop at a local convenience store, pick up another pack of batteries, and continue on your geocaching day.
Yeah, if there's a convenience store, if you're up on Mount McKinley, I don't know that you're going to find that.
That's true.
Well, thank you very much, Dano, for joining us. It's been a pleasure. And, of course, people are going to be able to catch you on Caching in the Northwest again this week. But what else are you up to?
Yeah, so the reason why I only get 1 day a week off now is I am now the co-host of Great Beer Adventure. Great Beer Adventure is a podcast that's about 22 episodes in. Amanda, who also lives in Portland here, she started it, and it's all about the stories behind the beer. Not interview a brewery about how you got started, but talk about those memories, talk about growing hops and malting and collaborations of different food and beer. So I actually was just a fan of the show, and at episode 14 I emailed her and said, "Can I be your intern?" A business meeting later over coffee, she's like, "You want to be my co-host?" I was like, "All right." But unlike what you guys got, we're not really on the show at the same time. Every other Friday, she does a 1-hour show, and then on the week she doesn't do it, I do a smaller half-hour show.
Nice.
But it's a lot of fun. We went up to Sea Dog Brewery in Bangor on Tuesday, and those guys pitched at me, so we're going to see what happens. They want me to come back and do like a micro Dirty's Job kind of thing and basically brew with them for a whole day and do like a YouTube 1-hour video or something. So that will happen in the spring.
Hey, and that would be a great opportunity for some Periscope too.
Oh yeah.
Which ironically is what we're going to be talking about next week.
Who knew?
Pretty cool.
Wait a minute. You worked this segue in, didn't you, Bill?
No. I did no such thing. I'm innocent.
Well, since you brought up the segue of that, now, each week, we'd love to give away prizes to our listeners who send us a simple email with an answer to a question. You heard about it at the start of this show with Stephen W54, so we want you to have a chance. So we need an email from you to GeoGearHeads at cachamaniacs.com by December 23rd at 6 p.m. Pacific, that's 9 p.m. Eastern, with the subject, Question 208. Now, all you have to do is answer this question. What is the most popular live streaming app among geocachers which shares its name with a submarine viewing apparatus? Or perhaps a Kelsey Grammer movie. So, get an email, subject 208 to GeoGearHeads at cachamaniacs.com. Get that to us by December 23rd. That's Festivus, folks.
Well, and the next day is going to be the live show, Christmas Eve. And you know what? We just don't rest. We're going to come to you live on Christmas Eve and do our show on live streaming. And it's not just Chris and I. We've got, actually coming from Christmas Day, Mark of OBeep, and Scott Burks is also going to be on that show. But, it's still, I guess for him, it's Geocaching Eve, not Christmas Eve.
There you go.
But we're going to be talking about live streaming with things like Periscope, Meerkat. Chris, I know you and I both had played with some of the earlier stuff like Quick and Ustream, and that's all stuff we're going to be talking about as well. Then on the 31st, New Year's Eve, we're still coming back live, and this one's going to be a lot of fun because we got a whole bunch of the patrons coming to you as well for a randomized show. And I'm sure that's going to be an extra long one because, well, we've got something like 6 or 8 patrons on there, plus Chris and I. It's going to be a blast. You don't want to miss that one. And make sure to join us live for that one as well because, again, live prizes. Then we're going to be talking about smartphone caching again on the 7th for GeoGearHeads 210. And that's going to be the first show we record in 2016. So make sure to join us for that one. And we've got Scott Burks and Shortiness joining us for that to talk about smartphone caching and maybe 1 or 2 others. That's going to be another fun one.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of our favorite guests, DeBear, is going to be returning for episode 211 to talk again about travelers. So that's the bulk of the shows that we've got scheduled for the next several weeks. Make sure to mark those down, send in your feedback, and join us live at 9 p.m. Eastern or 6 p.m. Pacific for all of those shows.
That's right. And in the meantime, check the Cachemaniacs website at cachemaniacs.com for more on the GeoGearHeads, including show notes from this and all our episodes. We love hearing from our listeners, so leave us feedback by calling 206-350-3647, by emailing geogearheads at cachemaniacs.com, or through social media. Your support helps keep the Cachemaniac shows coming, so please consider becoming a patron through the link on our website to support the Cachemaniac shows. GeoGearHeads is produced by Chris Umfenauer and Daryl Wattenberg. The show's copyright 2015 by Daryl Wattenberg. All rights reserved.
Cash with the Cachemaniacs.